Burna Boy.
Yes, sir.
The Grammys.
Yeah.
How did we get here? How did Burna Boy get here?
Burna Boy's journey to the Grammys, it's been imperfect. It's all like Wizkid's journey. Wizkid's journey was kind of straightforward. Not exactly straightforward, but it was kind of straightforward. Like Wizkid was a superstar from the ground. 2008, MI's record, 2010, All Out Your 2011, the debut album, Ayo, and then from Ayo, straight became like this international superstar, One Dance and everything. Alicia Keys jumped, it was Ojo Elegba, then RCA, then One Dance, #1 hits, Grammy nominations, all of that. Some things happened along the way after Sounds from the Other Side where the releases became sparse, they became scattered and everything. But Wizkid's journey, Wizkid never stopped being a superstar, never. With Burna Boy, he was this guy that came back from the UK, signed to Aristocrat Records, released 2 EPs in 1 year, Like to Party, released an EP, released on a spaceship after he left Aristocrat Records. Between Redemption EP and Redemption EP and on a spaceship, which was the album, Burna Boy was steeped in controversy, right? His career was not going as good as he would have hoped his career would go, and it was suffering. But 2017, his mom had left. But 2017 was a pivotal year for Burna Boy. That was the year his mom came back. That was the year he started going on tour, performing small locations across Europe. Burna Boy wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing what Wizkid and Davido were doing at the time because he couldn't even do them. Those guys went into the West and Europe as superstars. He was a talented guy. He couldn't do that, but he was always hungry on a different level, and his talent was always obvious. Everybody knew Burna Boy was talented. The question was always, can Burna Boy overcome all his demons and get there? 2017, his mom came back, started performing small locations. In one of those small locations in the UK, that was where Matthew Additional, who has a JV with Atlantic Records called Bad Habits, that was where they came to see Burna Boy. Burna Boy performed. That was how Burna Boy got signed to Atlantic Records. It was the night that he recorded Ye. Everything interconnected. By January 2018, he jumped on Mania with Fall Out Boy, destroyed the record, killed it. Heaven Sent with Lily Allen, which is one of his best performances ever. Then Ye slowly started building up, and became this huge hit. Because why? Kanye West released an album titled Ye. A lot of publications have reported that because Kanye released Ye, on Spotify especially, coincided. Whenever people search for Kanye West Ye, Burna Boy's Ye would come out, and then all of a sudden the song started growing. Within a year, that song became like this record that was getting played during a Black Lives Matter protest. Burna Boy's stock just went through the roof. Now, what did he do? While he was doing that, on the other side, he had the Coachella drama. The Coachella drama then became these other things that became this entire socio-political brand of African Giant. Burna Boy released On The Low and released Bono, and then he cemented the street's credibility in Nigeria with Killing Them. The next year, Burna Boy lost it. He got nominated for a Grammy.
Do you think that was, we all know what happened with Twice as Tall, how it was curated to Grammy's taste. Do you think, why do you think African Giants appealed to Grammy?
African Giant appealed, again, people who go from here into that particular, look at the people that got nominated this year, for example. Tina Raymond, Bebe Gilberto, Anushka Shankar, Burna Boy, and Antabalas. Antabalas and Burna Boy's music were highly socio-politically charged. Tina Raymond's album Amaja was inspired by their inability to go home after a tour. They recorded that album outside their own country. Bebe Gilberto's album was inspired by loss of his father and his mother. Anushka Shankar's album was inspired by divorce. So they like the idea of purpose and uniqueness to the themes of an album. With African Giants, what Burna Boy achieved was socio-politically charged music. Even though he was singing about love and a lot of those things, but the socio-political aspect of the music appealed. that they created, it wasn't just a Burna Boy thing. It wasn't just that they moved into it. There was an entire movement behind that. Every interview that Burna Boy was going to, he was speaking about Africa's problems, Pan-Africanism. He was speaking about how to progress as Africa. By Twice As Tall, you will realize that he was speaking about Gaddafi a lot. So it's not coincidental. These things so now you're talking about the quality album, you're talking about the branding of the album, and you're talking about the movement itself, which is Afrobeats. Burna Boy became the face of that Afrobeats movement. He became the pinnacle of it. And when you're the pinnacle of something, a movement that an academy believes will be here for a long time, you are going to get it.
Okay. For Twice As Tall, after losing the Grammys to Angela Kidjo in 2020, he went ahead to do the Twice As Tall and curated it to Grammy Taste. How did he do that? What was the steps that he took to curate it into, to Grammy Taste?
Number one, Burna Boy basically sacrificed the Nigerian front and hits for that album. Last year we did a fact only about how Nigerian artists were sacrificing hits for quality albums. A lot of these things that they were doing, these guys are signed to foreign labels. Like, foreign labels want to make money. They want to appeal to a larger market. So a lot of times, the home front is going to be sacrificed because a lot of them also don't understand the home front. They don't understand how it works. What they think works might not work here. Burna Boy's album was not curated for us. Some songs were curated for us. Onyeka was curated for us. Bebo was curated for us. Alarm Clock. Some of those songs were curated for us. But the larger part of those songs, of that album, was not curated for us. Like, I was listening to a podcast by the New York Times earlier some days ago, and they were breaking down how the academy works. How does the academy work? They have 11,000. So the first phase is 11,000 members, right? 11,000 members of the academy. They scrutinize and they produce 20 albums or 20 results per category, and then those ones then go into an independent category that nobody knows, according to them. So if the New York Times doesn't know, nobody knows those people. 20 members, they then come up with their own list. Like, they then break it down into the short form of 8 for the major categories, right? And then for 5 for the other categories that require those nominations. They can then sub those things and put their own in there. So everybody votes on a plurality scale, which means that I'll vote if 10 people vote for one album. So based on the number of votes that an album gets, it then goes into the nomination. Burna Boy succeeded in making an album that is tailored to that market. He released a song like Wonderful. Wonderful was based on it's an Afro-pop record, but the entire formation of that record was tailored to another market entirely. Burna Boy made it like the chants on that song was made like a Lady Smith Black Mambazo record, and Lady Smith Black Mambazo have won that category 4 times. You are looking at Burna, the singles on that album, none of them were tailored to us. Onyeka is the last single that they released. Way to Be came shortly before Onyeka. Guess the singles that they pushed: Monsters You Made and Real Life featuring Stormzy. Not for us. And in Real Life, what were they doing? They were talking about gang culture in the UK. On Monsters You Made, what were they doing? They were talking about Nigeria's socio-political problems and struggles. These things were not created for us. And at the same time, it's also a thing with Burna Boy that he was so bent on this that he didn't care, to be honest. He really just didn't care.
So, there was no hits. How no hits, especially from the Nigerian front? How do you think he affected him at all?
I wouldn't say he did, because, like, going into that, sometimes you see the end justifies the means. That's what a lot of people say sometimes. And that's factually, by the way. With Burna Boy, he got Diddy on that album, right? Timbaland retouched certain tracks. Mike Dean produced certain tracks. With Burna Boy, you could say that he lost sometimes, but Burna Boy is in his creative peak. But you can be sure that Burna Boy's next album is going to be fire, because that's just where he is right now. You know that he cannot produce something average right now. So with the form that he's in, he showed that on the last album, he just didn't put the records that could really crack the Nigerian market on that album. And there were some songs that were on that album that if they had pushed, they would have broken, they might have been hits. Like Onyeka, if Onyeka had come immediately after that, a video for it had come immediately after that album, it could have been a smash hit. If they had pushed Bebo, for example, or if they had pushed Alarm Clock, for example, those records are Afro-pop records, but they never pushed them. So with Burna Boy, he can go and create it. But here's the thing. we then have to wait to see if those records are going to work, because he might come back on the home front to do it now. But here is also another thing that you might look at. Again, as I was listening to podcasts, what they were saying is some people discover music through streaming, some people discover music through media, some people are going to discover music through Grammy wins because it's the biggest award in the world. Like we were talking about Black Rumors and Jacob Collier. They were talking about how some opinions in the academy were reflected in that music. For example, they were saying Jacob Collier is Quincy Jones's protege. With Burna Boy is the face of a movement that those people think can work. Now, Burna Boy can sit down here and say, look, do I want to remain here and be making hits down here? Or do I want to go there and actually go and own it and try give it everything I got? Because right now he has won the Grammys and it's not going to be his last nomination. Burna Boy is likely to win more Grammys now, either as a featured artist or as a lead artist, because he is the face of that movement. And those guys they're invested in him. Burna, in terms of Grammy babies, Burna Boy has become a Grammy baby. He got 2 nominations back to back. It's not going to be the last time. And one and only second Grammy nominations, right? Exactly. Most people don't. Shreya Kuti has 4 nominations, no win. Sean Kuti has 1, no win. You have to look at how Burna Boy might say, well, we don't care about this market anymore. Let's go outside. With the title of that album, Outside. That was when he was going outside. Let's go outside and remain there and not care about this market. He could say it and it could work for him.
But without a Nigerian hits for, say, in his next album, like 2, 3, 4 years, how do you think his status in the game will still be?
It won't last. It's unlikely to last. Don't let me say it won't last. It's unlikely to last. I remember a conversation with Noso Amadi in 2019 where I was talking about, I asked him if he was really ready to go out there and make a mark. He said, it's easy to go out there and make a market, especially when you've succeeded here. But even for people who have succeeded here before they go out, they need to still maintain the home front. Why? The home front feeds the perception of that market. Those people are looking here to get some substance to stay there. For example, if you are not making what got you there in the first place, and those guys come back here and find someone new who is doing that, they are going to jump on that person and abandon you. So you need to maintain the momentum to keep going, at least in a remote way.
So how do you think Burna Boy should balance this?
He needs to still be making it. He needs to still go. You can make an album like Twice as Tall, but it's important that you push the Onyeka that's on that album as much as you push any other. Especially the next album, at least must be pushed. Like it must have at least 2 singles to be on Bono and on the low level. At least he has the capacity to make those records. He needs to care about this market, at least remotely, for himself, not for us, for himself. He can afford to keep going and not do anything, but he needs to do that.
What next for him?
What next for Burna Boy? Like I said, it's not going to be Burna Boy's last Grammy or nomination. It's not going to be the last, and it doesn't matter what he makes from now on. Because look at it this way, you have to look at how the formation of this year went. Megan Thee Stallion was winning a Grammy in a category basically that was influenced by Beyonce, who is a Grammy baby. Beyonce has won 28 Grammys. She won Best New Artist. You are looking at Billie Eilish, who won Record of the Year. Despite the fact that a lot of people are calling an upset, and you have to understand it, because people don't even understand how that record was going to win a Grammy in the first place. So when the Academy looks at you and they see you are going to win it. You are going to win a lot of awards. Look at R, for example. R doesn't necessarily have the hits. R doesn't have the radio presence. But again, going back to that podcast episode, Joe Cascarelli was questioning how R keeps getting Grammys. He doesn't understand it, despite the fact he feels like someone in that academy keeps getting her into those conversations. Burna Boy now, because of the kind of music he makes, because it's the face of the movement, and because of what it represents, he's going to keep getting nominations. It's not going to be the last. Going forward, Burna Boy's next 2 albums are probably going to be incredible. We just need to wait to see what he's going to do, and that's factual.